I guess we're live, and we have Harley Schlanger here. We're talking about the Rouge Foundation. The latest thing, of course, is the firing of Bolton. I hope they won't replace him with Bolton, too. I saw one of the candidates that could be a possible replacement. He's, again, another type PNAC type person, globalist. Basically, China pulled back, and actually the local people in Hong Kong against this extradition thing. That was really the only issue, and we see the Soros Foundation is pushing it. I know there's some internal problems in Communist China. They have WhatsApp, our rating company here in America, working with the Communist Chinese since 2014 to set up social rating, but they actually want to bring it back to America, too. They also, in a sense, have it with social media now, the big tech companies, and there's 49 states filing suits, both Democrats and Republicans, to call them, and the Europeans are going after Google and Facebook, etc., and Twitter. The real issue here is I'm sure Xi wants to work out a deal, and there's a pathway here that I think Trump is going to actually get something. But let's talk about first about Bolton and then go on. I hope they don't replace him with Bolton number 2, I call it. You know, in other words, a Bolton light. Or in other words, it's not quite so bold as Bolton, but, you know, not just a sneaky version of him.
Well, let's not bury the lead here. This is an extremely important development. I just wrote an article which reviewed the differences between Trump and Bolton on about 5 major stages or fronts in the war. Venezuela is one. Trump felt completely sabotaged by Bolton on Venezuela because Bolton told him, look, we're going to get Guaido in, Maduro's going to fall, it's going to be a pretty much bloodless coup and it'll make you look good. And of course, Bolton miscalculated and it completely collapsed. And that got Trump angry. Secondly, on Iran, Bolton is still saying he wants war with Iran. There needs to be a regime change there. And Trump instead, Trump's concern with Iran was not so much the government in Iran, but the deal that Obama made with Iran, because Trump thought that Iran got too much and gave up too little.
Right.
And so the possibility that there'll be a discussion, including at the UN General Assembly meeting coming up in New York at the end of the month, had Bolton's mustache twitching. So this is another area where they disagreed. Afghanistan, same thing. Trump wants to get out of these wars. Bolton loves these wars. Bolton still defends the Iraq war. And then the other really interesting one, which most people are not, well, and there's North Korea, where Trump singled this one out by saying that Bolton screwed up the deal with Kim Jong-un by threatening them with the Libya treatment. But here's something that I'm sure your listeners have no idea is going on.
Right.
There are things going on in Ukraine that are fascinating, just totally fascinating. You had Macron meeting with Putin about 3 weeks ago, and they talked about restoring the Normandy process, that is the Russia, Germany, France, and Ukraine discussion. Now, this was shut down by Poroshenko. Now you have this new guy, Zelensky, who's the president of Ukraine, who talked to Putin the other day, and they worked out a trade or a prisoner swap. 35 Ukrainians held in Russian prisons were returned for 35 Russians held by Ukraine. Now, Trump tweeted, "This is a great first step. Congratulations to both of you." Later that day, he was asked, are you getting soft on Ukraine? Are you prepared to de-emphasize the annexation of Crimea? And Trump said, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And Bolton immediately came out and said, no, we won't see what happens. U.S. policy will stay the same in Ukraine. Now, it was the Iran situation and the Ukraine situation, and then Afghanistan was the final straw, where Bolton was putting out leaks about disagreements among various Trump people with meeting with the Taliban. Now, why would Trump meet with the Taliban? Because he wants to get these wars done. He wants to finish off these wars, whether it's Afghanistan, American troops in Iraq and Syria, involvement of the U.S. in Yemen. He wants it done. Bolton does not. And so by removing Bolton, Trump sent a signal to the whole world that he's serious about this change from British geopolitics to working with other countries, the other great powers, toward resolving problems. Now, here's what I find most interesting. The reaction of the anti-Trump crowd. You had the predictable reaction from the Democrats. Chuck Schumer saying, this proves that the administration is dysfunctional. Why, getting rid of a maniac like Bolton is the smartest thing Trump's done.
Right.
Why can't the Democrats support that? You had Adam Schiff saying this shows that Trump is all over the place. Samantha Power, the former UN rep from Obama, who said Bolton was at least a professional. Yeah, he was a professional war. This just shows are on the same page.
Right.
Then you had Rubio, who expressed some concern about Bolton's leaving. You had John Brennan saying this is terrible. Well, I think what this shows is that Trump has decided that with the collapse of Russiagate, he's now prepared to make some bold moves. Now, on the Russiagate thing, you also have the likelihood that Andrew McCabe is going to get indicted, and there's a possibility that the judge may reopen the whole Michael Flynn case based on the fraud that was committed by the Mueller team. And in particular, one of the issues is the role of Joseph Mifsud, who was supposedly, according to Mueller, Mifsud is a Russian agent. According to Mifsud's attorney, Mifsud is reporting that he was working all the time with the CIA, the FBI, and the British.
Wow.
So this thing can be blown sky high. So you put that together with Trump recognizing that there is a problem with the U.S. economy, a very big problem. That's part of the whole Western world. And then put that together with his decision to get rid of Bolton. I don't think he's going to put in someone who is Bolton-esque. Or one of the rumors is that Stephen Begin, who is the mediator with North Korea, is a likely choice. But whoever he puts in, it's not going to be someone who tries to make policy as though he were president. Bolton, on several occasions, went over the head of the president or behind his back. For example, remember on Iran, Bolton was the one who ordered the USS carrier group Abe Lincoln into the Gulf, and he told the Pentagon to prepare plans for 120,000 troops for deployment. Trump never did that. So I think Trump realizes that this is his opportunity now to seize the upper hand. I suspect there'll be some discussions with Putin soon. There's quiet, behind-the-scenes discussion going on between Trump people and Macron's people. Macron is completely untrustworthy, but the French realize that Europe is a mess. Merkel has no power. The British are in total chaos, and the French see a French-Russian alliance as a stabilizing measure for Europe.
Right.
And what Macron also realizes, even though he and Trump have had a pretty rocky relationship, that Trump and Putin can work together. And so there's big shifts underway. Now, all of this is occurring, Bill, as we talked last week, about the bankers in a desperate panic to completely grab the levers of governmental power in every nation that they can to merge budgetary policy, fiscal policy with monetary policy, and to take it out of the hands of elected governments.
Right.
Now, one final note in this whole picture. The poor Democrats don't even know what planet they're on. If you saw any of the debate, the so-called debate in Houston, what's clear is that these guys are talking at each other and talking at the media in a completely different strategic world than the one that exists.
Right.
And what I think is going to happen is that if this continues, even people who don't like Trump, who have fallen for some of the lies and slanders against Trump, are going to see that he's trying to deal with real problems, while the Democrats are basically engaged in intramural tag football.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what Trump understands is that business trumps a war. Business trumps even the internal things happening in China. For example, in the last 30 years where we let them into the World Trade Organization, we didn't have any things to actually modify the behavior inside China. So there's some negative things going on there. Now, Xi realizes the negative behavior is starting to affect business, because I have my sources that show that although that there has been a reduction in the value of the yuan, part of it manipulated, but also there's been a contraction of the number of companies leaving, going to other Asian countries, or even coming back home. China knows that they're teetering, and if this becomes a really vicious war with America, the Chinese will have a major contraction of their economy. And I think Xi's smart enough to realize that several things need to happen. Number one, they pull back on this thing pushing the takeover of Hong Kong and the local authorities there. That's over, and which is why it's strange to me that they're still pushing. They want to take back over Taiwan, which is not going to happen, because Taiwan not only makes 75 to 80% of all the world chips for microcomputers, but the Taiwanese are very independent of China, and they also not only have the second fastest air force, and they have our nukes. People don't know this. I have classified sources. So the Taiwanese are very much against China taking back Taiwan. The same way as the independent business people in Hong Kong do not want to have extradition to China, and I don't know why they even started this whole process inside Hong Kong. But China basically needs to start moderating their behavior. I mean, they had a one-child policy, we moved to a two-child policy, now they have the social rating system. It's ticking off a lot of people, because a lot of the engineers and people and scientists that move back to China after going to training in the West, they go back to a place that's pretty totalitarian. I have relatives in China. I know what's going on. And the Chinese people are smart people, but they seem to have a high limit. But to be honest with you, Xi actually changed a lot of the rules, which makes it easier to remove him from power, believe it or not. And he tried to say that he wanted China to become the prescient producer of commercial products and eventually take over AI in 2025. Well, innovate it. If you want to do AI stuff, which I'm sure will help with manufacturing, like 3D printing and AI for all kinds of stuff. But what I see happening is I think Xi wants to collaborate with the West. In fact, it would be to our advantage if we want high-speed rail to contract to Chinese engineers. It would be to our advantage to actually work on these things. And I think Trump sees that. He sees it as a business opportunity, whereas the previous politicians didn't. Is also moderate behavior inside China, which I think will make it more livable for the Chinese inside China. And yesterday we had in the program Gordon Chang, who is Chinese, who wrote the book The Coming Collapse of China 10 years ago, and he wrote also the fact that they're losing South Korea, which is a recent book, and the stalemate or the showdown with North Korea. North Korea is economically supported by China, but it's mainly Russian nukes. I mean, those are Rosatom nukes from outside Moscow. So the Chinese want to make a deal, to be honest with you. And I know in the West they don't want to. In fact, we look at Marco Rubio and other idiots. They don't want us to work out a deal with China. They want us to be in a war footing with them, which is really ridiculous, and it's dangerous, don't you think?
Bill, I think you have somewhat of a one-sided view on this, because you're missing another point.
Okay, right, sure, but I love to be pointed out. Go ahead.
All right, the United States needs China as much as China needs the United States.
Oh, I know. I sort of said that because they have a lot of engineers, a lot of scientists, a lot of brains.
No, it's not. No. It's not just that. It's not just that, Bill. The United States economy is very weak. The media lies about the strength of the U.S. economy is a joke. The banks in this country don't have cash to lend for business, for industry.
No, I totally agree. I mean, we talked about this before, about the fact that the credit's not available to small and medium business, a guy in his garage to develop new technology.
Well, that's why I'm saying that the important thing is that Trump is aware that the economy is not strong. He's a smart guy. He knows that. Right. And he knows that we need China. That's why he started pulling back on some of the next round of tariffs today.
Yeah, I believe it. Absolutely. Amazing stuff. We'll be back in a moment with more with Harley Schlanger. Stay tuned.
Do you have difficulty taking supplements? Are you searching for a high-quality, complete nutritional drink that your whole family will love? NutriMedical's Life Support has arrived. All of your daily nutritional requirements in one quick, delicious drink. Dr. Bill Deagle's Life Support is a proprietary blend of vegan protein, activated vitamins, essential minerals, amino acids, probiotics, green tea, digestive enzymes, anti-inflammatories, cancer prevention, detoxification, and much more. Your body will high-five you for this one. Life Support is the best complete nutritious meal replacement replacement on the market. Whether you are an elite athlete, have post-operative challenges, chronic illness, elderly, or a family that just wants a quick, delicious drink, try Dr. Bill Deagle's Life Support for optimized nutrition in one great-tasting smoothie. Just add cold water, almond milk, fruit, or anything else you like. NutriMedical's Life Support. Try our great-tasting chocolate or vanilla today. Call 888-212-8871 or visit us online at NutriMedical.com. NutriMedical.com for the whole family.
Red Deer Velvet DR is an amazing new product with a patent to preserve 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones, same as fetal life, where you don't age at all. The state of fetal life allows the 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones produced by the placenta to be supportive of the regeneration of tissues and organs, with maximum apoptosis, changing the tissue and organ structure of a fetus. That's why if fetal surgery is performed, there is no scar. Taking 2 to 3 capsules twice a day with oncomycin, myco-D2, provides an amazing support for regeneration of any tissue and organ in the body, and even advanced stem cell therapy support treatment. Do get NutriMedical's Red Deer Velvet DR from Dr. Bill Deagle at NutriMedical.com, NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. Stay well and stay young with NutriMedical. Lumen photon therapy, infrared light, far and near infrared, is extremely important for pain control, stimulation of nitric oxide, improved perfusion, and stem cell activation and reduction of cytokines. Dr. Bill uses it for pain control, for regeneration techniques, for organ regeneration, and for stimulation of your stem cell activity. This amazing lumen photon therapy this year will probably have an additional device with frequency therapy during the on phase of the lights. To obtain a lumen photon machine, contact Dr. Bill at NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. He'll prescribe it with providing nutraceuticals to help with your regeneration, healing, and pain control. Nothing like the lumen photon therapy for easy therapy for your eyes, your pain, your joints, regeneration of organs, detoxification of the body. Get a lumen photon machine from Dr. Bill Deagle, NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. Stay well with NutriMedical. The Sonic Life Machine is one of the most amazing therapies that Dr. Bill provides. It is the best sine wave exercise machine on the planet, doing whole body vibration, opening up the muscle to reduce insulin resistance, improve perfusion, release stem cell therapy throughout the body, and epigenetically stimulate the body to release DNA activated. The epigenetic therapy with the sine wave curve of frequencies given for atomic resonance, but Linus Pauling for minerals and amino acids, stimulates the production of messenger RNA to correct structural protein enzyme deficiency for almost every illness. There's nothing like the sine wave therapy for improving body healing for exercise, but also the epigenetic treatments Dr. Bill can provide can help neutralize frequencies for disease states and illness. Get a Sonic Life machine through Dr. Bill Deagle at NutriMedical.com. Contact us at NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871, or go to the website NutriMedical and give us a contact. Dr. Bill is available to help you get well with NutriMedical.
Need a powerful ally to fight daily bugs and serious pathogens? Allicin Med is the powerful universal pathogen killer's latest advance of German-sourced allicin, enzymatically stabilized to clear the body of bacteria, fungi, mycobacteria, and parasites. It penetrates body biofilms and is non-toxic to tissues. Pathogen resistance cannot develop for long-term body-optimized wellness. Clear stealth pathogens that promote autoimmune disease, cancer, and vascular inflammation and plaque, and promote healing of tissues. Now pathogen-free. With 200 milligrams more power than prior Alamed, you can't get a more powerful ally to fight daily bugs and serious pathogens. Give your body what it needs. Allicin Med. Order Dr. Bill Deagle's Nutridyne at 888-212-8871 or NutriMedical.com. That's 1-888-212-8871 or NutriMedical.com. And listen to the NutriMedical Report on the Genesis Radio Network with open lines every weekday. NutriMedical.com, bringing nutrition and medicine together.
And welcome back. So we have some interesting facts here. I'm not sure what the pathway forward is. I have a feeling this fall it's going to get sorted out with Trump. But my guess is, number one, there's 3 or 4 issues on the table here. Number one, we need to equal out the trade balance. A lot of it is going to be agricultural products and automobiles and major things we do make. that need to get into China. We need to also make sure that we equal out the tariff and non-tariff barriers so that China can't manipulate its currency, that we actually probably back our dollar with gold and actually link it up directly to the yuan. And then other currencies can then link up with us unilaterally. When we I called a exchange day, one day a year where we work out exchanges with each nation separately, not in a multilateral agreement.
Well, Bill, this is what we discussed last week when I told you about the proposal from my colleague Paul Gallagher, which is now circulating widely in the Congress, where what Paul said is that, this whole thing about currency manipulation. Look, Europe manipulates its currency. The U.S. is manipulating its currency. That's what interest rate discussion is all about. The solution is to stop pointing fingers at each other, but sit down and say, okay, why is this happening? It's happening because we have floating exchange rates, and governments no longer control the currencies that they issue in their name. The currencies are being issued by private banks who profit from them, who don't give a damn where the money goes, as long as it makes a profit for them. And right now, to make a profit, it goes into increasingly risky speculation. So what Paul Gallagher proposed is Xi and Trump sit down, bring a couple of people along with them who know these things, and map out what they think would be a starting point for a fixed exchange rate between the yuan and the dollar. Now, whether they do a gold backing or not initially is not the important thing, because both countries have gold. Both countries could do that. But the important thing is they agree to a fixed exchange rate and then call up Abe in Japan, call up Moon in South Korea, call up Putin. They could even call up Macron, because the French historically had a connection to fixed exchange rates, and say to them, look, we're making this shift. You want to join us this weekend, and on Monday we can come out with a new financial system, one that's not controlled by central bankers. So this is something that could be done. Now, I mentioned just in passing, Trump today stated that as much as he wants a big total deal with China, if that's not possible in the short term, he's willing to do it in increments, a little bit here, a little bit there. In other words, the Chinese agree on certain things and the U.S. agrees on certain things, and we have more agricultural products going over there. We reduce the tariffs and so on. This is extremely important from both sides. Now, the other part of this, as I mentioned earlier, is the European side of it. There's total panic right now on both sides of the English Channel. In England, there's this report called the Yellow Hammer Report that was put out by the government, which basically says if there's a no-deal Brexit, there will very soon be shortages of medicine, shortages of food. I think it's a scare tactic, but nevertheless, it is working. It's scaring people. But in Europe, there's a total panic as well, because they're not sure what's going to happen. Does this mean that every person who's a citizen of a country in Europe who's living in England is going to get kicked out of England and sent back over to Europe? What about some of the Islamic terrorists who have made London their recruitment center? Are they going to get sent back to France or to Italy or Montenegro? So this situation is extremely unstable. And the irony is that with all the talk we hear in the American media about how erratic and crazy Trump is, if you really look at the situation from the outside clearly, Trump is the most secure political leader in the Western world right now. And it's because he's been willing to fight. Now, he doesn't always fight the right battle or with the right tools, but he's fighting against the bad guys, just to put it simply. And I think we're going to see something really fascinating unfolding in the next month or two around the McCabe investigation. Probably new charges will come out against, or some charges will come out against Comey. I think Brennan is in very big trouble, even Clapper, because Clapper played a major role in bringing the whole British operation around Christopher Steele into the United States. And if the Flynn case gets opened up, that's going to bring in something that you and I have discussed a lot, the FBI sting operation, including people like Stefan Halper and Joseph Mifsud, both of whom, well, Halper is a long-time acknowledged British intelligence CIA operative. He was deployed both on the Carter Page and the Papadopoulos case. But Mifsud, according to Mueller, was a Russian agent with ties to the Putin administration. And Mifsud himself said this is complete nonsense, and that he was brought in on the Flynn case going back to 2015. You know, the story about Flynn going to a conference in Moscow and then coming to a conference in Britain and getting attracted to a Russian scholar in one of the British institutions. Well, the woman who's the Russian scholar said, look, nothing happened. Nothing went on. This whole thing was a setup being done by U.S. intelligence. So
right.
It's a classic sting operation. And as this starts coming out, Trump will be standing head and shoulders above people like Nadler and Maxine Waters and Elijah Cummings and the others. And you can see it in the panic in Nancy Pelosi. When she was asked yesterday about Nadler's move toward impeachment, Pelosi just blew up, shut down the press conference, and said, I'm not talking about that, because she knows that underneath all the bluster about impeachment, the people who are going to be hit the hardest are the anti-Trump people. And she doesn't want that to be the issue shaping 2020. But I'll tell you what, Trump wants that to be the issue shaping 2020.
Right.
That he was a victim of the most outrageous witch hunt in American history. So then we get back to what you were talking about just before the break. How do we solve this? We go back to the American system. And this is something that is not taught in the schools anymore. I was an economic history major, got a master's degree in that, and didn't know anything about it. It wasn't until I started working with Lyndon LaRouche as a postgraduate student that I learned about the Hamiltonian system. And what LaRouche demonstrated is that this is the historic base of the manufacturing and agricultural and infrastructural power of the United States. And that even though we've very often detoured away from the Hamiltonian credit system, whenever we've gone back to it, we've had an enormous immediate impact on the whole world. And one of the best examples, because this gets to the whole question of Europe, is after the Civil War. When in 1876 there was an exposition, a world fair, I guess it's called, that took place in Philadelphia to honor the American centenary. And you had all these industrialists from Europe come over, and they saw the factories in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia. They saw the new technologies related to rail systems that were being developed. And they just said, how did you do this? And they got to meet the American economists who briefed them on the Hamiltonian system. And these Europeans, especially Germans, took the books written by Americans, like Henry C. Carey, who was a student of Hamilton's economics, one of the most important economists in America in the 19th century. Carey's works were taken back to Germany and were used to shape Bismarck's shift of Germany from a British free trade system to an American system. And that's what led to Germany's rise in the last decade of the 19th century. That's when the British decided they had to crush Germany. But again, after World War II, how did Germany get rebuilt? It was Hamiltonian economic policy. Emphasis on machine tool production, on energy efficiency, on high tech, and on skilled workforce. And the German economy was truly an economic miracle in the late 50s and the 60s. So was Japan. MacArthur brought the same thing to Japan. In Japan, they had a guy named E. Peshine Smith, who was also part of the Henry Carey networks. And he wrote a couple of books, and he was brought over to Japan during the Meiji Restoration to show them how this system worked. It's a national economic system of credit, of tariffs if necessary, and of emphasis on the most modern technologies from the standpoint of increasing productivity. So this is something that Trump knows something about, because he's talked about the American system, and he's talked about Henry Clay and Lincoln and a few others. I don't think he fully knows it, but he should, and he can learn it quickly. And if we go to this, and the Chinese have a good grasp of it, the Russians are moving towards it, we have the potential to put the funny money, central bank dominated swindle out of business forever, and work in collaboration with every nation on the planet that wishes to have this kind of prosperity and this kind of development.
Right.
So I think we're at that point in history right now where all of this is possible. And what stands in the way is a bunch of obstructionist Democrats, neocon and neoliberal Republicans, and corporate cartels and the bankers. And do they have a lot of power? Yeah, but they're stupid and they're screwing everything up. So I think we can outflank them and beat them.
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the basic point is that if you then look at the China-U.S. trade talks in that context, both sides have an enormous incentive to work together, whereas John Bolton was a sticking point in the relationship. And Trump finally made the decision, look, he can't tolerate this Bolton obstructionism anymore, and got rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured you'd be jumping for joy because of the discussions we had
Well,
about
I am very happy that I'm worried about who's going to replace him, though. Who's going to replace Bolton? Will be another kind of Bolton 2?
Well, look who replaced John Kelly. I mean, Mulvaney is holding the position now, but there's no real chief of staff for Trump. Trump is his own chief of staff. The defense secretary is essentially Trump. He's got this guy Esper in there, but Esper's not making policy. Pompeo, without Bolton, will be a complete Trump loyalist. And then the question of who comes in as national security advisor, I think at this point Trump is going to be smart enough that if he picks someone who comes out of the old establishment, it'll be someone that he can control. So I'm not so worried about the sabotage from within. I'm worried that there's still an active effort by people like Adam Schiff and Nadler, the Washington Post. You know, they concocted this crazy story about Trump basically unmasking a U.S. spy in Russia, and it turns out it's a complete lie. But they're still looking for some kind of silver bullet to bring him down.
Well, you know, the thing is that there's people on the left and right trying to bring Trump down, isn't there? And even though Trump doesn't get everything right, he's getting enough things that tick off the globalists that they're doing everything they can on both the left and the right to take Trump down, aren't they?
Well, and he's not just ticking them off. He's undermining their failed system. He's moving into a new arena. Now, whether he has all the seats in place and everything set to go, that's not the point, because he's the kind of guy who goes as he goes along, makes up his policies. And that's not all bad, because most of these plans that are based on old recipes don't work. Right. You've got to be innovative. You've got to be creative. And I think he has enough of a sense of that. The question is, does he fully understand what the intention is of the people who have been out to undermine him?
Right.
Yes, it's to get rid of him, but why? What did he represent that was such a threat? And if he gets that, then he should be able to figure out what to do. And one of the things that the article I just wrote on the Bolton firing goes through what LaRouche said back in 2008 about a four-power agreement. Why, if the U.S. works with Russia, China, and India, you can solve these problems. And that's exactly what Trump is moving towards.
Right. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. Yeah, and Trump is actually moving step by step toward what we actually think is a LaRouche-type plan, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I think so.
Are you still looking for that one iodine that you can really trust? A medical doctor endorsed product that is backed by honest research and true integrative science? Then search no further. Go to NutriMedical.com for Dr. Bill Deagle's Nutriodine, proven time and time again to be the very best iodine available for you. Nutriodine is the only Tesla-activated monatomic plasma iodine in the world. It optimizes mitochondrial function and generation of new mitochondria, from totally neutralizing the venom from a desert recluse spider bite in Southern California to eliminating malaria parasites reported by medical missionaries in Central India. Dr. Bill's Nutriodine is simply the most powerful healing formula there is. Nutriodine clears the body of all known pathogens, restores it to an alkaline state, and even promotes stem cell regeneration. Order Dr. Bill's Nutriodine today at 888-212-8871 or visit us online at NutriMedical.com.
Red Deer Velvet DR is an amazing new product with a patent to preserve 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones, same as fetal life, where you don't age at all. The state of fetal life allows the 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones produced by the placenta to be supportive of the regeneration of tissues and organs, with maximum apoptosis, changing the tissue and organ structure of a fetus. That's why if fetal surgery is performed, there is no scar. Taking 2 to 3 capsules twice a day with oncomycin, myco-D2, provides an amazing support for regeneration of any tissue and organ in the body, and even advanced stem cell therapy support treatment. Do get NutriMedical's Red Deer Velvet DR from Dr. Bill Deagle at NutriMedical.com, NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. Stay well and stay young with NutriMedical. Hi, I'm Dr. Bill Deagle, MD, AAEM, ACAM, A4M, of NutriMedical.com, and a consultant providing email advice free on advanced protocols for your optimized wellness and advanced technologies to heal and regenerate you. You can contact us at NutriMedical.com, that's NutriMedical.com, or 888-212-8871. You get free email starter protocols of our top medical-grade nutraceuticals, initial testing, and recommendations for your own primary doctor to do, as well as recommendations to give you an idea of a consultation and a full protocol to try to help you regenerate your tissues, heal naturally without the use of toxic polypharmacy. I can send test kits to you as well anywhere in the world and provide you recommendations to referral of specialty clinics worldwide. So contact me, Dr. Bill Deagle, at NutriMedical.com. That's NutriMedical.com, or 888-212-8871. At NutriMedical.com, we have the most amazing drinks with the best mouthfeel, highest quality bionutrient exposure to your body to heal and regenerate, and the most powerful persistence of nutrients to heal your body dramatically. We have Ageless, which makes you age less, which repairs your DNA, extends your telomeres, etc. We have Life Support that detoxes phase 2 detox pathways, glucuronidation, sulfation, and methylation pathway support. We have Glycemics that blocks the carbohydrate absorption and helps with diabetes or weight loss, and as well helps with people that are trying to build up muscle, using things like our special formulas from Dr. Wolf called Mega Muscles between meals along with Sports Energy Light. We have the amazing Nutri-Complete, the most complete red and greens drink in the world, with the best mouthfeel and flavor. You can often mix it too with Vitamin Mineral Mix, which is our fruit-flavored mixed power of vitamin minerals. Stay well with NutriMedical every day.
I remember when I lost.
Spin the whole Bolton thing to say that Trump really wants to be tougher on Venezuela. Now, what's interesting is that the Washington Post, which every once in a while tells the truth, even though it's against their nature, had a story a few weeks ago which quoted an inside administration official who said that Trump was very worried about Bolton getting him caught in a quagmire in Venezuela, and that he met with people in the military who told him that Bolton's idea that you could have a quick, sharp coup that would bring down Maduro and stabilize Venezuela is a complete fantasy, and that if you want stability in the region, don't go for a coup. And that Trump was very much affected by that.
Well, I have. Let me put up my theory of what needs to happen. We have Venezuela as a proxy of Russia, of the Hezbollah in Iran, and also of China. There's 35,000 Chinese troops. There's a real simple solution. All Trump has to do is make a few phone calls to tell the Chinese, pull out your troops, tell Russia to pull out your troops, because there can be economic consequences. And he can actually, even without even doing it, even threaten to actually cut off the oil from Venezuela going to Cuba. And if they pull out the troops, then they can have an open election, and the people can decide. Now, the problem is, the longer the sanctions are on, you're very right about this, the more the normal people who don't support Maduro are going to leave, which means it makes the situation worse. There's 8 million people that don't support Maduro in Venezuela, and if the sanctions continue, they're going to increase the chances that Maduro will not be removed. It's the opposite of what people think, right?
Well, yeah, because what happens is that they're Venezuelan patriots, and even if they don't like the government, they don't want someone else coming in telling them what they should do. And this has happened repeatedly.
Yeah, it's best actually that we do stabilize it in a way that the people can make their own decisions, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and this is what the difference between the regime changers and Trump is. The regime changers, people like Samantha Power and Susan Rice, Tony Blair, they think that they know better than the people who live in these countries what's good for them. And so they have this theory called responsibility to protect, which basically says, since the people who live in these dictatorships, these authoritarian countries, don't have the power to deal with their criminal leadership, we have to do it for them. And then once we do it, they'll be able to establish democratic government. Now, of course, every time we've been involved in a regime change, the economic situation plummeted and it got worse. And the people became more and more angry at what we did. Look at Libya. Look at Ukraine. Look at Syria. The Syrian people, even people who didn't like Assad, rallied to support him because they saw him as a national figure. And I saw an interview with one of the opposition figures in Syria who was on television in Germany, who's just gone over to work with Assad to finish off the terrorists. And he said, look, one thing I'll tell you, we didn't have people leaving the country as refugees when there was no civil war. We lived under Assad. We may not have agreed with him on things, but we had a good life. Once the arms came in and the civil war started, people were forced to take sides. And people immediately in the battlefront, many of them just left the country. But people in the rest of the country who were protected by the Syrian government and Syrian troops rallied to support Assad. And he said, now, once this war is over, maybe we can get back to more normal times and we'll see what happens. But you're absolutely right. The regime change people start from the standpoint that they know best.
Yeah, they always know worse. They always know worse, don't they?
This is the mentality, right? The deplorables don't know how to take care of themselves. And so we have to do it for them. But here's the real trick. Here's where you see what they're really up to. They're going to build new democratic institutions. You know what that means? Graft and corruption. The U.S. companies that are tied to the military-industrial complex are going to come in and get huge contracts from the United States. Maybe they'll build something and maybe not. I mean, there are estimates that something like $30 to $50 billion that supposedly went into democratization in Iraq ended up in the pockets of independent U.S. contractors.
Yeah, I think, though, that Trump should be tough with China and Russia, but he can do it in a diplomatic way using conversations on the phone rather than having military action. And honestly, once we have free and open elections, the Venezuelan people decide for themselves. The Russians and will pull out their troops and their nukes because they need to know that we know that they are there. In fact, I think Trump should come out openly and agree that our intel information we've sent him is correct, that the Russians have it there. But you see, the Russians are a little bit paranoid. October 5th, 2017, they did a war game simulation with a quarter of their population, around 40 million, telling their people through RTTV and so on that they're going to be attacked by the Europe and the West America and Britain with nukes. I'm thinking, we have no intention of attacking Russia, but they told him this because for Putin, he wants to re-exert the Soviet Union. He's really ticked off it fell. And somehow in his mind, he doesn't understand. For his country to prosper and to have an economy bigger than Rhode Island, it needs to start collaborating with the West. And just having a parallel SWIFT system with China is not going to work either. For China to try to compete with the West and still trade with us, that's going to end, because I'm sure Trump will get a second term. And Trump, if he gets a negotiated deal, will protect our intellectual property. China will still prosper, but it's going to have to change internally too. And so will Russia.
Look, a couple points I just don't think are right. Putin is not trying to restore the Soviet Union.
Oh no, he's made public statements on it. That's actually his public statement. Well, let me finish. No, let me finish, okay? His public statement just about a year and a half ago, when he was talking about his missiles, of course, that could cross the South Pole. His actual public statements over several years are the greatest danger and thing that happened was the fall of the Soviet Union. So, if he could re-exert power,
he said the greatest tragedy for Russia. But he's never made any effort to reincorporate the republics.
Well, he can't possibly do it. I mean, he couldn't do it even if he tried. I mean, it wouldn't happen.
But he has no intention. Look, what you're missing is that Putin is
the problem is, you see, although he may say that, he actually has.
Christian.
Let me finish, okay? The problem is, although he says that, well, there's another side of the behavior, because he's playing more than one game here. He's still putting Russian nukes in North Korea. Those are Russian. We have classified sources on that. He also has Russian nukes in Laurachila Island and Punta Huerte, Nicaragua. So he needs to realize that's not a game that works out to actually work out trade deals and actually stabilize the future of the world. Now,
Bill,
Trump
let me present. Okay, let me present.
So what I'm saying is, although he's presenting in one picture that he wants to collaborate with the West, and I agree, it's a good thing for Russia. I think on the other side, he's doing behavior that's actually counter to that, and so that's part of the problem. I think is we're seeing multiple pathways. The same with the Chinese. China have for years, even under Xi, basically been stealing the intellectual property, and so what I see happening is that intellectual property issue. And I don't agree with Marco Rubio. Rubio is vile, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
he doesn't want any deal to work out.
Let me come in here for a second. Yeah. Let me come in here for a second. This is neocon propaganda against Russia. Trump doesn't
not really. I'm looking at a balanced approach. No, it's not neocon. I'm not a neocon. Let me explain. What I'm saying here is Russia has multiple pathways, and so does China, and they think one of these is going to work. And to be honest with you, Trump is wanting to negotiate beyond people taking multiple pathways to get their way. I mean, the Chinese are not just doing one game, they're doing multiple games at the same time. Same with the Russians. And we need to play a game smart enough so we don't end up with war or economic collapse, or, like you said before, we need to actually tie the dollar and get rid of the bubble economy. The Chinese don't want to be stupid. I mean, if they connect their economy to ours, which is a bubble economy, we'll just swallow them right up. And they're not stupid. They've actually studied our economic system. They realize the bubble economy will just swallow them up like a giant whale swallowing up a small fish, right? So there's multiple things going on here. It's not just like it's not. I call it space chess. Okay, it's not just one game going on. It's multiple games and multiple levels happening, right?
Well,
I'm not a neocon. I don't believe in the neocon thing about the idea of running the world. Yeah, the neocons are crazy. And the idea of running the world from America like Bolton, which is a damn good thing he's gone. But I'm worried about Bolton, too, another guy. And I'm also worried that Trump is still being...
Bill, give me a minute here, okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you haven't given me much time in this last segment.
Right.
What Trump believes is that if he can sit down with Putin, they can reach deals.
Oh, I'm sure he
believes that because he's talked to Putin. He knows what he and Putin have been honest with each other about the fact that neither of them want a huge arms race. Neither of them want to fight wars over Ukraine or over Syria. They want to collaborate against terrorism. They want to collaborate against the problems we face from the rest of the physical universe. Now, what Putin
we've had good examples of that, too. The Russians have actually been notified by us about terrorism attacks inside their country, and those things have happened to some extent. I agree.
And they also notified us. Unfortunately, they notified the FBI about the Tsarnaev brothers, and the FBI didn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But my point is that Trump, instead of thinking he has to build up a cordon sanitaire against Russia the way we did with the Cold War, he knows that the solution is cooperation.
Exactly.
Russia
exactly.
Is small,
it can be done in a collaborative It's the same thing. For example, a few phone calls and the carfentanil will stop coming in from China. I mean, it's entirely Chinese. I mean, the fact that China has weaponized the South China Islands and we don't have a nuclear treaty with them, we should have a multilateral treaty with all the major powers so they don't have proxy nations getting nukes. Venezuela, Iran, and North Korea are just examples of these powers having multiple tracks of their foreign policy, and they need to stop it because it's not good for the world. It's not good to pass it off to nations that may not use restraint. For example, right now we have Afghanistan, we have Pakistan, who has the Waziristani plant, and they got a lot of nukes. I mean, we're responsible for that plant being built there in Waziristan. And America's foreign policy is schizophrenic. It really is. It has been for decades. And what you show is rationality, that agreements and discussions can get to an agreement that can actually stop a lot of the other side effects and then redirect us to galactic things like in less than 10 years we have an asteroid coming at us. We have the danger of a coronal mass ejection from the sun, and we haven't hardened the Earth to our power grid systems. We are looking at climate change and we want to blame humans. No. What if it's something completely aside from humans that's causing major storms and so on, aside from even weather modification? And we aren't looking into that. We need to have multiple nations that look at that. And that's where our scientists around the world, including Chinese and Russian, need to be working on these issues. But I agree with you. I think that Trump sees beyond that. He's a businessman primarily. He is not a manipulator like Bolton or the other Bolton-like guys that are around him. And neocons, the PNAC people, they think that just American force or bluster can kind of scare the world. We don't even have missile defense. I mean, it's still stupid kind of threatening Russia when if they get itchy and somebody in their missile system sends off missiles, we don't even have missile defense. So I think what Trump is doing makes common sense, doesn't it?
Well, there are a number of things we could discuss on this, but I think the important thing is that Trump has a sense that he can work with Putin and he can work with Xi Jinping. He doesn't think he can with most of Europe. He doesn't think he can work with the Democrats, and he isn't working very well with most of the Republicans who oppose him. Now, on these questions, Russia and China have a profound need to work with us and we with them. And that's what has to be focused on.
Precisely.
And most of these other issues, Trump has said, look, we can sit down and discuss it. Where we agree, we can solve problems. Where we disagree, we should talk. And that's the way we should approach this.
I agree.
If you don't deal with the economy, which is coming at us like a runaway freight train, none of this will work.
Exactly. I think you're right. The key issue here is there's vestiges of previous policies from previous governments in interaction with the Russians and Chinese that's causing parts of their reaction to us as being kind of dangerous. And Trump can talk through this if he can get down and negotiate it. But you're right, it's a thorny issue, and I'm glad Trump is in there negotiating. Hopefully he has good advisors and now he got rid of Bolton and doesn't replace him with what we call Bolton Light. How's that? No Bolton Light guy. How's that? And thanks, Harley. Great show.
Which was most important because that was your theme.